Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to make the review of a pen inside this box. This pen was provided to me for review by Tibaldi. So this is a Tibaldi pen. By the way, if you are interested in buying this pen, you can use the code ODE10 for 10% discount at Tibaldi's website. So let's open this. You have the pen that comes inside this box with this red sleeve. Very simple package. It says there Tibaldi also on the other side, nothing more. This reddish sleeve is sometimes quite tight, but you can open the box without taking this out. Then you have Tibaldi there and the eagle, that is the symbol of the Aquila family. Aquila means eagle in Italian, and Aquila family is the owner of Tibaldi, which is also the owner of another Italian brand, which is Montegrappa. So Tibaldi there, the eagle there, Tibaldi.com on the other side, and then some recycled symbols and so. And then you slide this open like if it was a drawer. Very, very hard cardboard, very well protected, and here you have the pen. Let me just lift the pen bed and you can see a little card that is the certificate of authenticity, and then a package with two short international fountain pen ink cartridges, one black and one blue. So this is very simple. You have an elastic band here, which is somehow a little bit more interesting than the ones that have these made of fabric, and then they have little loops there, and you have to struggle a little bit to put the pen underneath. This one is very simple with this velvet thing. I like the packaging, very simple but very sturdy and well made. And so let's take a look at the pen. And this pen is called Tibaldi Bononia. This is again another Tibaldi pen like the Perfecta or the N60 that I showed here in the channel before. These are pens that are inspired in vintage models made by Tibaldi. And so you can see that this really has some kind of a vintage look. And it is a pen that's quite interesting in my opinion. It has this torpedo shape. Some people call it like a sword clip, which is springy enough. And what you have is a cap that has that kind of bullet shape, and it is very simply done. It is a little bit pointy, and it is made with that spaghetti resin people talk about, which provides the pen many layers of depth and different color shading, and it is very interesting. The clip, as I showed you, is very shiny, simple and springy, and on the base of the cap you have three metal rings, and you have Tibaldi there, and on the other side you have engraved made in Italy. So very beautiful material. This resin is called Martini Olive. Then it is also available in other two colors. One of them is black, so black is very simple, and some people prefer to have very simple pens instead of colorful ones. And then the barrel is very simple, straight, and then it points down a little bit on the end. So this pen is all made of resin, very interesting in my opinion, and you have subtle colors there that go from almost black to green, and mainly here on the cap you can see the beautiful chatoyance of this. I think this pen is really beautiful. The pen, the cap unscrews, and it takes one and a little bit, just a little bit more than one turn to uncap, and you have a section that has an interesting characteristic, which is to be of around the same diameter as the rest of the cap, so of the barrel. So you don't have a big step here. It just tapers down a little bit, but not a step, which is interesting. However, when you do that kind of design, if you have no step, then the cap will be a little bit more bulky than the barrel. It has to come out a little bit, stand out from the barrel there. But that way you have no step here, and this will allow you to have more freedom on where you want to hold the pen. I would say that this section is quite thick, more than 1 centimeter, which is great, and it just flares out a little bit here on the end, nothing much special. The interesting part is that it is also made of the same material as the resin of the barrel and the cap. I just want to warn you that there will be no exact match from the stripes, this design from the barrel to the cap and to the section. This is kind of random, but I think it's beautiful. Then you have a nice number 6 steel nib. This is a fine one, and there on the nib you have half the eagle of the logo. When you turn to the underside of the nib, you have a ebonite feed, which I find to be amazing thing. I really think ebonite feeds make all the difference in fountain pens, because I find that the pen is always more wet. Then you have these, the threads here are metal, inside the barrel they are plastic, they are the resin ones, and you have a converter which is branded Tibaldi, and it comes with a pen. And this kind of converter is this screw type converter, which is nice because if you are filling the pen from the converter, you will not risk to that get loose and the section to fall into the ink. That may happen. And this is it. So this is the overall of the pen. It takes international sized cartridges or converters, and this pen costs 195 euros, so you can use my discount if you want to get it from Tibaldi directly. I think this is an interesting pen. I like the way that a brand, I'm always saying that, I do not need vintage pens. I do not need that all the brands make all their models based on their vintage models. However, I have to say that I like to see when a brand takes its own history, makes like a reinterpretation, and delivers products that are an homage to their vintage products. And I really like that. Nothing against getting completely new designs, but I like when people do this. They are not trying to look like if this is a vintage pen. They are just using the vintage concept of designs to make pens with the ease of the modern and easier to use, in my opinion, filling systems, which is the best of all, again, in my opinion, is the cartridge converter. And be aware that I always say that cartridge and converter is, I think it's the end of the evolution of the filling system. So it's the one that makes more sense. It's easier to to clean. It's easier to get spare cartridges in our pocket and then put in the pen when it runs out of ink, or you can use the converter and take ink from the bottle. I think it's the most, it's the best filling system. However, I also have pens that use other filling systems. The fact that I like this one, that I prefer it, is kind of a very personal choice, and it doesn't mean that I don't love pens that are not cartridge converter. Okay, I'm just saying that because sometimes people get very strict, and when I say that I love cartridge converter pens, sometimes people ask, why do you have piston fillers if you think cartridges are better? Yes, I think, but some pens come as piston fillers and that makes them great also. There's no problem with that. Okay, so let's see a shape comparison with two other pens, or three. This kind of shape will remind us, at least it did to me, of the Sailor 1911 large, and you can see it is quite comparable in size. However, the Tibaldi Bononia is more pointy in both ends, less rounded, but even the clip is similar, although the Bononia is more flat, this one has more ridges and so on. The bands are different. I'm not saying that anyone is trying to emulate the other, I'm just comparing. And this one has more rings than the Bononia. And then we may also think of another Italian brand, which is Leonardo Officina Italiana. And I have here a Furore. This color is Passion Red, and it is similar. It is a little bit more pointy here than the Sailor, but less pointy here on the end. So the Tibaldi is still the more pointy pen of them all. But they will be very comparable pens in their sizes. And then I think this is the most similar pen with the Tibaldi, which is this Vingsung 627. It is a very beautiful pen, and it has almost the same shape as the Tibaldi. This is very similar. And now let me just uncap the pens for you to check the comparison, and you'll see that even uncapped, all these pens have some similarities. There is some stuff from the background attached to the pen. And you can see they are all quite comparable in terms of size, of looks, even design, and the size of the nibs. However, all the sections are different. This one gets slimmer getting to the nib. The Tibaldi is more straight one. This one has a hourglass shape, and that one has that kind of bump down. Okay, now let me show you a comparison of size that I think it is also important to do. This was more on the shape. And then we have here the two pens I have always compared the other pens with, which is a Lamy. This time is not a Safari, it is a AEL All-Star, and the color is the charged green. It's a color from a couple of years ago. And you can see that the Bononia is a few millimeters longer. And I also have here a Parker Centennial du Fold in the green check. And I would say that this color reminds me a little bit of that one. Different way of using the color, and this one is more on the warmer side and one has more grays, but I think it's interesting. And you can see that the Tibaldi is the longest. Now, when we uncap all the pens and use them unposted, that's how I think these pens were created to be used. and you can see that they are around the same size. The Lamy is a little bit longer, but the nib is much smaller, and the nib of the Tibaldi is of the same size as the nib on this beautiful Parker Centennial Dufold. About the comfort in writing, this is very comfortable to hold. The threads are not sharp, and because of the thickness of the section, you can hold the pen wherever you want, no steps. And can you post the pen? Yes, you can post it. It posts securely, and it doesn't get top heavy. It keeps the balance because it posts quite deeply, but I think I prefer to use it unposted, as I prefer to use almost all my pens. So I hold the cap on my left hand. This is something that I learned in school. We should keep the cap on our left hand so we don't forget it or lose it or drop it. And with the fingers we hold the sheet of paper we are writing on, and we write with the right hand, or do the other way around if you write with your left hand. So now let's see the pen performing on paper. And here we have pen and paper, and let's see how it works. So this is the Tibaldi Bononia, and the color is Martini Olive with a fine steel nib. The ink inside is one of my favorite, and I'm using this ink a lot, which is the Mont Blanc. It's getting, when I get to the end of the ink bottle, there will be no more because it was a special edition and I will not pay very high prices for old stock. So this is Mont Blanc Daniel Defoe, very beautiful ink, and the paper is the usual Rhodia dot pad. And about the writing, this pen writes really well. As you can see, this is a fine nib, and I would say it's really a fine one. So don't expect that to be a wider fine. I would say it is a real fine. Not a Japanese fine, but an European fine. It writes really well with a little bit of feedback. It's not perfectly smooth, not scratchy at all, but it has some pencil-like feedback, and I like that, I have to say. So I'm quite happy with that. I experienced the same with the Tibaldi Perfecta that I reviewed, and you can check the review of the Tibaldi Perfecta in my channel if you want. About the line variation, when you write regularly, you will not see much of line variation, although the downstrokes are a little bit wetter than the upstrokes. But if you press a little harder, and it doesn't have to be much, you can have some line variation. And this is something that I don't remember seeing on the Perfecta. About something that people like, which is reverse writing. This is one of those pens that are smoother on the reverse side than on the regular side, and it keeps up with ink. It's not very wet, but it keeps up. So you can use the reverse writing to have a real extra fine, or even less than that, with the reverse writing, if you are into that kind of thing. About the wetness, yes, this is a fine nib, but it is, I would say, wet enough for a fine nib. So I have to say that I'm very pleased with this pen, and I've used 3 Tibaldi pens so far, and I have to say that I was pleased with their nibs. I tried F and M's, 2 F's and 1 M, and I preferred F. And I have to say, this one is beautiful. It's just amazing. I love this color a lot, so I'm really impressed with this. I usually say that some colors, this may seem a little strange, but it is a good thing, not a bad thing. I like pens that remind me of somehow the fish skin as they shine where they are, when they are in the water swimming, and this one has one of those kind of finishes. It reminds me maybe a fish and the kind of shining. I like it. I like this pen a lot. So very nice size. It's not inexpensive. It has a steel nib, but a very good one. But it's not expensive pen. It's just below the 200 euros. And remember, you can use my promotion code. You can check all that on the description of the video. So this is all I had to show you. I have to thank you, Tibaldi, for providing this pen for review, and I also have to thank you all for watching my videos. If you like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.